208 points lower in the Dow. So, given the fact it was like 1,100 points lower when we started out this morning, that's really an incredible recovery. Soybeans, which had been 30 cents lower at the start of the first part of the morning anyway, now just 11 or 12 cents lower. Wheat market also down about 10, 12 cents earlier in the day, now up a couple cents as well. So it's been really quite a remarkable recovery from the first part of the morning.
Jack Scoville, get back to your day. We'll check back in with you in a little while.
Okay, well, thank you. Hello, Price Group.
Hey, Jack, it's Ari.
Hi, how are you?
All right, how are you doing is the important question. It's a little after 3 p.m. Eastern time. How's your day been going?
Well, it's been pretty crazy, to tell you the truth. Watching the markets going up and down as well, the stock market goes up and down has really made for a very wild start to the week, that's for sure.
I'm sure you've been having conversations with some of your customers today. What do you hear from farmers, people who grow wheat, or people whose lives depend on commodities prices?
Well, actually, a lot of them have become buyers. The prices have gotten very cheap. So what you're seeing is the more brave of the bunch coming in and actually buying some corn or some soybeans to cover some previously made cash sales, hoping the market will appreciate to the upside.
We're going to check in with you one more time after the markets close. How confident are you that at that point you'll be able to say, on the whole, despite the drama, this was a good day?
Well, I'm kind of almost ready to say that now. Let's see how the Dow actually closes out. It's been up and down, really, over the course of the day. It had about 1,000-point swing from the low to the high, and we'll see exactly where we close this thing. And once we have that in, we'll know whether we'll at least have an idea of whether we're safe or not.
All right, Jack Scoville, we'll talk to you soon.
I hope so. Thank you. Price Group.
Jack, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Okay, the New York Stock Exchange has closed. It is down 3.5%. So now that you know how the day ended, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling relieved that the day ended, but I'm feeling somewhat confident that we've seen the worst of this thing and it'll start to stabilize as we move forward.
Jack, you've been doing this for 30 years or so. How many days have you had that were this chaotic and dramatic?
Well, you can count them on one hand, really. These are days that you kind of tend to remember for the rest of your life, and they give you stories to tell your kids and grandkids later on. So it's really been just an incredibly dramatic 3 days through here.
That's Jack Scoville, who's a commodities trader with the Chicago firm Price Futures Group. Jack, thanks for sharing your day with us.
Well, thank you. I hope we can do it again.
All things considered on WNYC. Following Hurricane Katrina, disaster relief money poured into New Orleans to help build and renovate dozens of low-income health clinics. The result is that some residents now have access to routine care without having to go to the emergency room.
It's really primary care that not only is looking at an acute problem, but putting it appropriately in the context of the patient's chronic issues.
We'll have more on that story just ahead. Stay tuned.
WNYC receives support from GEICO, offering car insurance as well as services for homeowners and renters insurance through the GEICO Insurance Agency. Additional information can be found at geico.com or 1-800-947-AUTO. Workiva, creator of WDesk, helping Fortune 500 level companies with productivity, risk, and compliance with enterprise management solutions. Learn more at workiva.com.
On the next Radio Lab, the story of a chimp who never got the chance to be a chimp.
It's called Lucy Growing Up Human. She grew up at 2 months. A chimpanzee daughter in a psychotherapist's family. She was trying to climb out of her critical. She was so responsive.
Tragic tales of species confusion on the next Radio Lab. Tonight at 8, 93.9 FM WNYC.
And in the wake of minimum wage increases across the country, a handful of restaurants are experimenting with eliminating tipping and adding a fixed service charge. On the next Brian Lehrer Show, restaurateurs and service workers weigh in on the new business model. Plus, you'll hear why the 2016 presidential candidates are still debating a bill from the 1930s. That's tomorrow morning at 10 on WNYC. Well, tonight we do have a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Mostly cloudy. Our low will only be around 70 degrees. And tomorrow, Tuesday, we will still have that chance of thunderstorms, but just before noon. Right now, it is 80 degrees in Central Park.
Support for NPR comes from WNYC members and from OZY, a digital magazine dedicated to the new and the next for discovering people, places, trends, and technology from around the world at ozy.com/NPR. That's ozy.com/NPR. And Epson, with Epson Industrial Application Solutions, for helping fashion and textile designers bring their ideas to life, with dye sublimation printers that marry fashion and technology to create digital couture. Where there's business, there's Epson.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Audie Cornish. We're going to learn more now about the man who tried to open fire on passengers on a French high-speed train on Friday. French authorities say he's a 26-year-old Moroccan who lived for years in Spain. Lauren Freyer reports from Madrid.
Crowds of vacationers pack Madrid's Atocha train station at the height of the summertime tourist season. There are noticeably more police, too, many of them accompanied by dogs to sniff out explosives. The authorities have stepped up security at rail stations across Europe after Friday's attack. Tourist Abel Sacpeda was on his way to Barcelona.
Usually you can see police in the station, but it's not very common see them with all the guns and with all the bulletproof jackets.
Safeda says all this security reminds him of the Atocha train bombings 11 years ago, Europe's worst act of Islamic terrorism, when bombs planted in backpacks on commuter trains killed nearly 200 people here. Friday's train attack in France could have been almost as deadly, if not for prompt action by a group of passengers who subdued the gunmen. 3 Americans and a Briton were awarded France's Legion of Honor this morning. The suspect is now in French custody. If he is who he says he is, said France's Interior Minister Bernard Cazeneuve, he's a 26-year-old Moroccan who was flagged by Spanish authorities in February 2014 for adhering to radical Islam, he said. Ayoub El Khazani lived in Spain for 7 years with his parents and 5 siblings. During that time, he was arrested 3 times, but for drugs, not terrorism. Still, by the time he left Spain last year, he was on a terror watch list. Spanish TV is showing 2 different photos of El Khazani. His first mugshot from 2009 shows a clean-shaven young man arrested for selling hashish in the street. But Spanish authorities believe sometime after that, he traveled to Syria and became radicalized. A 2012 mugshot shows him with a long beard, wearing conservative Islamic dress. El Khazani's family still lives in a poor neighborhood in the southern Spanish port city of Algeciras. His father broke down in tears when questioned by media. He said he hasn't heard from his son in months and was shocked to hear the allegations against him. For NPR News, I'm Lauren Freyer in Madrid.
10 years ago, Hurricane Katrina hit low-income neighborhoods in New Orleans hard. Hospitals and clinics were destroyed, and access to health care, which was already difficult, became even more problematic for low-income residents. Today, as NPR's Patty Naiman reports, Katrina's devastation has produced something of a silver lining for basic routine medical care.
The St. Thomas Community Health Center is one of the newly renovated low-income primary care health clinics in New Orleans.
Hey, how are you? Glad to see you.
Internist Mary Abel greets her patient of 5 years, 62-year-old Ermin's parent. Parent only sees Abel for routine checkups these days, but 5 years ago she was in crisis. Her leg hurt so much she had problems walking and was using a cane. She'd seen other doctors and a chiropractor but got no diagnosis. Then she came here where she met Dr. Abel.
She had me get up and walk to like the end of the hallway and walk back. I told her about the x-ray. She pulled up the x-ray. She looked at everything. She said, baby, your hips are gone. She said in about 6 months, you're going to be in a wheelchair.
About a month later, parent received her first hip replacement
9 months later, her second.
You know, changing those two hips just rejuvenated me. It gave me years back of my life. I mean, years. You could see it in my face, years.
She slept better, started exercising again, and lost weight.
I'm delighted that you're focused on wellness. That's what we want you to do.
When Katrina hit, many health facilities were destroyed and had to shut down. Urgent care centers, nursing homes, pharmacies, and hospitals, including the beloved public hospital, Charity Hospital, which served generations and generations of the city's poor. For many, it was a precious connection to health, from childhood through old age. But Abel says the attachment people felt may have been based more on sentiment than fact, especially when it came to primary medical care.
Patients had to use the emergency room if they didn't have health insurance and they had an ongoing chronic problem. And for the very few opportunities to get into a medical clinic at Charity Hospital, the wait would be significant.
Patients could wait all day, she says, and many ended up just leaving, which could exacerbate chronic problems that brought them there in the first place. But after Katrina's devastation, federal, state, and private foundation money poured into the city to help rebuild and renovate dozens of low-income clinics.
Today, a patient can call and get same-day primary care. This is not urgent care, it's not emergency room care. It's real primary care that not only is looking at an acute problem, but putting it appropriately in the context of the patient's chronic issues, whether they be social issues, emotional issues, financial issues, or medical issues.
In a recent NPR Kaiser Family Foundation poll, 72% of adults agreed that progress has been made in making medical facilities and services more available. But the majority also said more needs to be done to provide care for uninsured and low-income people. And among African Americans, nearly half said they were very worried healthcare services may not be available when they need them. Only 13% of white adults said they were very worried. One of the biggest weaknesses in the current system, says Abel, is specialty care, like orthopedics, neurology, and cardiology.
When you can't get your patient in to be seen for an issue that's evolving and you know that some specialty advice would be helpful, that was a real problem.
But a new state-of-the-art hospital opened this month. Abel expects it will make specialty care more available. That includes mental health care, which right now is a huge unmet need, according to Rashawn Carrier-Williams, who directs programs at Boys Town, a community group that helps troubled families and children. Part of the problem, a dramatic lack of psychiatrists. After Katrina, psychiatrists evacuated like everyone else, but most, says Carrier-Williams, never returned, putting the people she works with at a disadvantage.
A lot of times it's easier to get them in to see a psychologist because there are more of those than psychiatrists, but when it comes to the medication management and medication issues, it's difficult.
Psychologists can't prescribe medication, which is often what's needed. Today, Carrier-Williams says there's only 2 or 3 psychiatrists in the entire city who will take Medicaid and are willing to see her patients and their families. And there's not nearly enough inpatient hospital beds, she says, which has resulted in heartbreaking situations.
We had a youth in one of our short-term residential programs, and he came in and he stated that he wanted to harm himself.
Doctors at the hospital emergency room said the boy needed inpatient mental health care.
What was devastating to me about it was because the only inpatient bed that we had in the state of Louisiana was in Shreveport, Louisiana, which was 6 hours away from his family, away from us.
The family drove their child there for a 72-hour hold. The child temporarily got needed care, but the experience was grueling at a time when the family was extremely fragile. Carrier-Williams says she's hopeful the new clinics and hospitals will begin to fill the big gaps in mental health services, but based on Louisiana's and New Orleans' history, she says she's skeptical. Patty Neiman, NPR News.
It's All Things Considered on WNYC. The Dow plunged more than 1,000 points this morning before recovering to close nearly 600 points down. But in Manhattan's financial district, the response was muted.
I think we've seen much worse than this in 2008, 2009. We saw much worse than this, back in 87.
We're going to have lots more reaction to today's drama at the New York Stock Exchange after news headlines. Tonight, a chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly cloudy. Our lows will not get much down below 70 degrees. And tomorrow, Tuesday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms again, but mainly before noon. It'll be partly sunny with a high near 85. Right now, it is 80 degrees in New York City. This is WNYC.
It's a short walk from Denver City Hall to the Colorado State House, but not for this fellow.
There's no question that the war on drugs has been a disaster, but no governor wants their state to be the guinea pig.
Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper may have logged some serious miles onto the national stage. Checking the political Fitbit of Colorado's governor next time on The Takeaway, weekday afternoons at 3 on 93.9 FM.
WNYC is supported by TNT, presenting Public Morals. From creator Edward Burns, the new scripted series follows the cops of New York City's Public Morals Division who manage the vice crimes of the day. Series premiere Tuesday, August 25th at 10 p.m. on TNT.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. A bearish day on Wall Street with the Dow briefly sinking more than 1,000 points after a slide in overseas markets. The Dow closed down 588 at 15,871. The Nasdaq was off 179 points at 4526. Economist Brian Westbury at First Trust Portfolios in Wheaton, Illinois, says investors should not panic.
In my opinion, there's nothing fundamental wrong with the global economy, with the U.S. economy. Doesn't mean we don't have problems, but not the kind of thing that will lead to another crash like 2008 or a depression or recession. In fact, I think the U.S. economy is doing okay right now, and as a result, once this runs its course, the market will bottom, and I expect it to move back higher in the year ahead.
Oil prices also continued their slump. President Obama later today addresses a clean energy summit in Las Vegas, announcing new efforts to ease green energy improvements for businesses and homeowners. Housing Secretary Julian Castro.
We're confident that they'll have a big impact on the ability of families to access energy efficiency improvements and to do it in an affordable way.
It's part of the president's goal to reduce emissions that cause global warming.